Hello students, I am Sanjana Kapatigi, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, AITM, Belgavi. Let us continue with the video lectures on computer organization. We shall continue with the module number 2, that is basic input organization. In the previous video, you have studied about interrupts, some basic concepts of interrupts, interrupt hardware, enabling and disabling interrupts. So in this video, we shall continue the same concept. Okay, so we shall see handling multiple devices in this video. So in this video, we shall study about handling multiple devices. Okay, so to understand this, let us take up a situation where a number of devices which are capable of initiating interrupts are connected to the processor. So there are multiple n number of devices which can generate an interrupt signal are connected to the processor. So because these devices are operationally independent, there is no definite order in which they will generate the interrupts. For example, assume some 4 devices have been connected to the processor, and these are independent of their functionality. They are not dependent on one another, so we cannot predict which device will generate interrupt signal at what time. Okay, so for example, consider device X may request an interrupt while an interrupt that is caused by device Y is already being serviced, or several devices may request interrupts at exactly the same time. This gives rise to some of the questions. So the situation what we are considering here is, suppose assume there are X, Y, Z devices connected to the processor. Device X is requesting for an interrupt, okay, but the processor is already processing the interrupt that is requested by device Y. Or it may so happen that multiple devices or several devices are requesting for the interrupt exactly at the same time. Okay, this situation gives rise to some of the questions like, how can the processor recognize the device requesting an interrupt? How the processor can recognize the device which is generating the interrupt signal? Okay, or given the different devices are likely to require different interrupt service routines, how can the processor obtain the starting address of the appropriate routine in each of the cases? So we know that there is separate interrupt service routine for each of the devices. So suppose X, Y, Z, all the 3 devices are requesting for an interrupt. How the processor will get to know the starting address of the appropriate routine? Like if device X is requesting for an interrupt, then that particular ISR has to be executed, right? So simultaneously, if X and Y both are requesting for the interrupt, then how the processor can judge which will be the appropriate ISR for which device? So that is a major question here. Also, it also gives rise to a question, should a device be allowed to interrupt the processor while another interrupt is being serviced? Means, can a device request for the interrupt already when the processor is busy with processing the interrupt of another device? Or how should 2 or more simultaneous interrupt requests be handled? How the processor should handle 2 or more simultaneous interrupt requests that are arising from different devices? So these are the 4 questions that comes to our mind when there are multiple devices requesting for the interrupt. So, the ways by which these problems are resolved vary from one computer to another, and the approach taken for this is an important consideration in determining the computer's suitability for a given application. So, when a request is received over the common interrupt request line that we have seen in the figure, in the previous figure, in the video, so additional information is required to identify the particular device that are activated that is activating the line. So in the previous video we have studied in the interrupt hardware there are multiple devices connected to one common interrupt request line. So in such cases there is some additional information that is required to identify a particular device. There were n number of devices connected to the same common line, so I should have some information through which I can identify a particular device. So if two devices have activated the line at the same time, it must be possible to break the tie and select one of the two requests for the service. See, at the same time, the processor cannot provide service to two interrupts, so there has to be some uh, procedure to select one among the two. I have to break the tie. If two devices are sending the request at the same time, I have to break the tie and choose one to provide the service. So when the interrupt service routine for the selected device has been completed, the second request can be serviced. So in such cases, when the processor will break the tie and choose one device to provide the service, once that service has been completed, then it can choose the other device to provide the service. The information that is required to determine whether a device is requesting an interrupt is available in its status register. So when a device raises an interrupt signal, that status register uh, is set to 1. Any one of the bits in the status register will be set to 1. That register we call that bit we call it as a IRQ bit, interrupt request bit. Okay, so for example, the bits KIRQ and DIRQ, which we have seen in the previous videos, are the interrupt request bits for the keyboard and the display respectively. Okay, so the simplest K is for keyboard and D is for display. So the simplest way to identify the interrupting device is to have the interrupt service routine poll all the IO devices connected to the bus. It should have a polling system, okay, through which the device will be chosen to provide the service. So the first device encountered with its IRQ bit set is the device that should be serviced. Whose IRQ bit is set, that device will be chosen to provide the service. So for that device, an appropriate subroutine, that is interrupt request routine, will be chosen, and that through that the service will be provided. The polling scheme is easy to implement, but there is a disadvantage associated with this. The time taken to interrogate the IRQ bits of all the devices is more, because it is going to check the IRQ bits of all the devices that have not requested for the interrupt. So only it should check only the devices that have requested for the interrupt, but in general it will check for all the status bits of all the devices to check whether the IRQ bit is set or not. So that is the main disadvantage with this. So the alternative approach for this method is to use vectored interrupt. We shall study the vector interrupts now. Now we shall study vectored interrupts. To reduce the time involved in the polling process, a device that is requesting an interrupt may identify itself directly to the processor. Then the processor can immediately start executing the corresponding interrupt service routine, that is ISR. So the term vectored interrupts, it refers to all the interrupt handling schemes that are using this type of approach. A device that is requesting an interrupt can identify itself by sending a special code to the processor over the bus. Now, as I said, the device should identify itself directly to the processor. How this can be done? So, it is done by sending a special code to the processor over the bus that is connected to it. So, this enables the processor to identify the individual device even if they share a single interrupt request line. So, the code that is supplied by the device may be representing the starting address of the interrupt service routine for that device. So as I said, the device should send a special code through which the processor will identify which device has sent the request. So that code, it can be the starting address of the ISR, that is interrupt service routine. As there is a specific interrupt service routine for a particular device, so just by sending the starting address of the ISR to the processor can identify which device has sent the request, and it will execute the corresponding interrupt service routine. So this code length can be typically in the range of 4 to 8 bits. So the reminder of the address is supplied to the processor based on the area of its memory where the address for the interrupt service routines are located. This arrangement implies that the interrupt service routine for a given device must always start at the same location. That is nothing but the first address of the first instruction in the interrupt service routine must always start at the same location. So the programmer can get some flexibility by storing in this location an instruction which is going to cause a branch to the appropriate instruction. So with the help of that, the programmer will get to know or he will have some flexibility by he can store some instruction in that which will cause a branch to the appropriate routine. So the appropriate routine is what here? It is nothing but the appropriate interrupt service routine. So in many computers, this will be automatically done by the interrupt handling mechanism. So the location pointed to by the interrupting device is used to store the starting address of the interrupt service routine. Okay. So to the location wherein the interrupting service is used to store the starting address of the interrupt service routine. Okay. So the processor reads this address called the interrupt vector and loads it into the PC. Okay, so the processor will read that particular address and it will be loaded into PC, and then the PC will go on incrementing and the execution starts. As the execution starts, the PC will go on incrementing. So the interrupt vector, it may also include a new value for the processor status register also. So in many computers, IO devices send this interrupt vector code over the data bus using the bus control signals to make sure that the device do not interfere with each other. Okay, so as we have seen that some particular code will be sent to the processor through which the processor can identify which device is requesting for the interrupt. So it avoids the interference with the other devices. So when a device sends an interrupt request, the processor may not be ready to receive the interrupt vector code immediately. For example, consider it must first complete the execution of the current instruction, which may require the use of the bus. So for that reason, it may not read or it may not receive that code immediately. So there maybe further delays will occur if interrupts happens to be disabled at the time the request is raised. So the interrupting device must wait to put data on the bus only when the processor is ready to receive it. So when the processor is ready to receive the interrupt vector code, it activates the interrupt acknowledge line that is called as INTA, interrupt acknowledge. Okay. So when it is ready to receive the interrupt code, it will activate that particular signal. So the IO device responds by sending the interrupt vector code and turning off the INTR signal. Once it sends the code, the INTR signal, that is interrupt request signal, will be turned off. And once it receives the interrupt vector code, the processor will activate the INTA, that is interrupt acknowledge signal. So this is about vectored interrupts. The next topic we have is interrupt nesting. In the previous section, we have studied that the interrupt should be disabled during the execution of an interrupt service routine to make sure that a request from one device will not cause more than one interruption. So, the same arrangement is often used when several devices are involved. That means when multiple devices are connected to the processor, in which case, execution of a given interrupt service routine means if one device has requested for the interrupt, that particular interrupt service routine will be executed. Once it has started executing, it will continue until the completion of the so that execution of ISR will continue until it completes its execution and before the processor accepts an interrupt from the second device. Okay, so interrupt service routines are typically short and the delay they may cause is acceptable for most of the simple devices. For some devices, however, a long delay in responding to an interrupt request may lead to erroneous operation. Let us see one example. A computer that keeps track of the time of day using a real time clock. So, it is a device that sends an interrupt request to the processor at regular intervals. For each of these requests, the processor executes a short interrupt service routine to increment a set of counters in the memory that keep track of the time in seconds, minutes, hours, and so on. So, a proper operation requires that the delay in responding to an interrupt request from the real time clock should be small in comparison with the interval between two consecutive requests. So, to ensure that this requirement is satisfied in the presence of the other interrupting devices, it may be necessary to accept an interrupt service request from the clock during the execution of an interrupt service routine from the another device. So, this example suggests that IO devices should be organized in a priority structure. So, an interrupt request from a high priority device should be accepted while the processor is servicing another request from a low priority devices. This will happen when multiple devices are connected to the processor. So a multiple level priority organization means that during the execution of an interrupt service routine, the interrupt service will be accepted from some devices but not from others, depending upon the device's priority. Okay, so to implement this scheme, we can assign a priority level to the processor that can be changed under program control. So the priority level of the processor is the priority of the program that is currently being executed. When I say the priority of the processor, it means that it is nothing but the priority of the program that is being currently executed in the processor. Okay, so the processor accepts interrupts only from the devices that have priorities higher than its own. Okay, now suppose a program is running in the processor, there is an request from a IO device. In that case, it will check its priority. If the priority of that requesting device is more than the priority of the program that is being run in the processor, it will accept the interrupt request from that device, or else it will not. So at the time the execution of an interrupt service routine for some device is started, the priority of the processor is raised to that of the device. So this action disables interrupts from devices at the same level of priority or lower. However, interrupt requests from higher priority devices will continue to be accepted. A processor's priority is usually encoded in a few bits of the processor status word. So this can be changed by the program instructions that write into the PS. PS is nothing but processor status word. Okay. So these are called as privileged instructions. These instructions can be executed only while the processor is running in its supervisor mode. So there are two modes of execution in the processor. One is the supervisor mode and the other one is the user mode. Okay, there are some set of instructions that can be executed only in the supervisor mode. Okay, it cannot be executed by the user in the user mode. So the programs that are executed by the user will be always running in the user mode. Some special instructions only will be executed in the supervisor mode. Such instructions are called as privileged instruction. This you will be studying in detail in the operating system subject. As of now, just remember this. Okay, so the processor is in the supervisor mode only when it is executing the operating system routines. So these are the important things which cannot be executed by the user. So these will be executed only in the supervisor mode. User will not be having access to supervisor mode. Okay, so that is why the processor will be in its supervisor mode only when it is executing some special operating system routines. It switches to user mode before beginning to execute the application program. Application programs are nothing but the user programs. Okay, thus a user program cannot accidentally or intentionally change the priority of the processor and disrupt the system's operation. So, an attempt to execute a privileged instruction while it is in the user mode will lead to a special type of interrupt called as a privilege exception. Okay, this we are going to study in detail in the next concepts. Okay, so if the user is trying to switch to supervisor mode, there is going to be an exception that is called as privileged exception. It is a special type of interrupt that is called as privileged exception. Okay, a multiple priority scheme can be implemented easily by using the separate interrupt request and interrupt acknowledge lines for each of the devices as shown in the figure. You can see here we have the processor. Okay, and multiple devices are connected to the processor, that is device 1, device 2 up to device p. Okay, so there is a priority arbitration circuit in the processor which is going to check the priority of the device with the priority of the processor. Okay, so there are multiple lines that have been connected to this priority arbitration circuit from the devices. So just check the device 1, there is a line going from device 1 to processor or priority arbiter circuit, that is INTR bar. Okay, that is INTR 1 bar. 1 indicates the device 1. Next, there is a acknowledgement signal coming from the processor to device 1, that is INTA 1, that is interrupt acknowledge 1. Again 1 indicates the device 1. Same way all the lines from the devices are connected to processor. Okay, the INTRP is nothing but interrupt request line. INTA is nothing but the interrupt acknowledgement. So each of these interrupt request lines is assigned a different priority level. So interrupt requests received over these lines are sent to a priority arbitration circuit in the processor. So a request will be accepted only if it has a priority level higher than the currently assigned to the processor. So this process priority arbitration circuit will check the priority of the devices with the priority of the processor. That means priority of the program that is currently being executed. So a interrupt request will be accepted only if the priority of the program that is being currently executed in the processor is lower than the that of device, or the priority of the interrupt request is higher than the priority of the program that is being currently run in the processor. Thank you for watching.